Hey guys, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. Hope everyone has been enjoying the channel and the stories being put out. I finally put all my gear together and I will be filming more videos out in the field. I am tired of people saying there is no evidence and I am just ready to prove them wrong. I plan on filming a few solo expeditions here soon and just spend more time out in the field. In this video I interview a lady who has had a Bigfoot sighting. She is very adamant about what she saw and what she has experienced in her life. I really wanted to take a more natural approach with these interviews and try to make them the best I can. I hope you guys notice the improvements and I appreciate everyone for following along. Alright, with all that being said, let's get into this next Bigfoot interview. Hey Debbie, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could, would you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your Bigfoot encounters?
Okay. I'm a 68-year-old grandmother and great-grandmother. I live in Warren County, Tennessee, on top Harrison Ferry Mountain. I'm a retired cosmetologist of 35 years. After I retired from being a cosmetologist, I was around the house for a couple of years and I got bored. And I decided to take a second shift job at a factory. But before this encounter, I had let my son and his wife stay here at my house after they had their firstborn son. And they were staying in my big bedroom. And when you come out of my big bedroom, there is a big kitchen window. And about 2 feet on the other side of it is a door, back door. And my son come out of the bedroom one night, probably around 9 o'clock, and I was sitting at the dining room table just across from that window. And he looks at me and he says, "What was that?" I said, "What do you mean, what was that?" He said, "Something just come up them steps and went across the back porch." He said it was black. I said, "Well, I don't know." And he rushed over to the back door, and time he took 2 steps, whatever it was gone. If it had been a bear, there's no way a bear could have got out of the light of the back porch that fast. So I do not know what it was. I don't have no idea. But again, a couple of years later, my husband had gone to bed and I was sitting in the living room and had the screen door open on the front door, had the TV going. And I heard pow, pow, pow. And I told my husband, I said, somebody is shooting a gun across the highway over there in the woods. And then I heard it again, pow, pow. So I told him, I said, well, I'm going to step out on the front porch and see if I can tell where it's coming from. So I step out there and I'm standing there listening. And then it done it again. Pow, pow, pow. And I hollered back in the door at my husband, Larry. I said, that ain't a gun. I said, that sounds like wood on wood. I told him, he said, well, it's probably somebody over there building a deer stand or something in the woods. I said, well, who in their right mind is going to be over at 9:30 at night building a deer stand in the woods? So I heard it one more time, and I just shoved it off. I just come on back in the house. So about 2 or 3 years later, I had a big Chow and German Shepherd mixed dog. This dog would not let anything come in the yard. But he was a lovely, beautiful dog, friendly with everybody. And he was on the back porch one night, and I mean, he was raising holy Cain. He was barking and growling and carrying on. And I told Larry, I said, what is wrong with that dog? So me and him, I live in a mobile home, and me and him tried to get the back door open. This dog had his hind end butted up against this door, and he was not budging. It took me and my husband both to push this door open to get out onto the back porch. Well, the woods are about maybe 125 feet, I guess, from the back door. And this dog was growling and barking, and his hair was standing up, and he was looking in that direction, right at the wood line. But me and my husband, we stood there and we looked, we listened, we didn't hear nothing, we didn't see nothing. And whatever was there, this dog knew it. And this dog carried on for at least 15 minutes, probably around there. So finally he started calming down, and we come back in the house. So I take my job on second shift, and this is in the fall, November. And I usually got off about 12 o'clock. Sometimes it was 12:30, 1. And where I live on this mountain, there's 2 lanes going up the mountain and 1 lane going down the mountain. And as you're coming up the mountain, there is a old road to the left that still goes up the mountain. You can still drive up through there. But on the other side of this old road, there is a big rock quarry. And at the bottom of this mountain, there is a river that runs around the bottom of it. And there's also Cumberland Caverns. That's well known. Well, as I started up the mountain, I got about 1/4 of a way up the mountain. And I was going around a curve to my left. Well, on my right is the drop-off side of the mountain, and there's a guardrail there. And there's a little grassy area. I mean, there's woods all over the place, but there was this little grassy area. And I always would ride in the middle lane going up the mountain in case a deer jumped out where I could see it faster. Because I have hit deer, and so has my husband. And as I started around this curve, and I had my bright lights on, I didn't see no other vehicles, no headlights, no nothing. As I started around this curve, up in the distance, in my headlights, I could see something, but I didn't know what it was. And as I got closer, it was probably 25 feet maybe from me. If I was in the center lane, I think the lanes are like 12 foot or something, and then the outside lane, and then a small shoulder and the guardrail. As I got closer, I seen what it was. It was a Bigfoot. No doubt in my mind, 100%, this was not a bear. This thing was standing right next to the guardrail. I mean, right up against it. And when I seen it, I only seen it from the back. But that was enough. This thing was a reddish brown, sort of a chestnut color. The head set low down on his shoulders. It was rounded. It was not conical. The arms were down by its side, and the knees were above the guardrail as it was standing there. And the reason I noticed it, because the knees were slightly bent. And the hair was probably 3 to 4 inches, and it was shiny. It looked clean. It wasn't matted. It didn't, I've never stopped to put anybody there in that place to actually maybe gauge to see how tall it was. All I know, it was good size, and the knees were above the guardrail. And the strange thing, as I was approaching it, it never moved. It didn't flinch. It didn't turn to look. It was like if I stand still, they won't see me. And that kind of, I thought, well, most wild animals will react if something is approaching them. So when I got back, I kind of slowed down. I thought, well, I'm going to turn around and go back. And I thought, no split second. No, I'm up here on the side of this mountain. Nobody's around, by myself, no gun. So I went on home. So when I got home, my husband was already in bed asleep. So the next morning, I told him about it. Of course, he rolled his eyes, like some people do. He said, do you remember when our dog was raising Harry Carey out here on the back porch? I said, yeah. He said, something was there in them woods. He said, I don't know what it was. We didn't see it. That dog knew it was there. I thought, oh my God, maybe that thing could have been back there, in my woods. So I let it go at that. So I went on, a few years, and I got in after my husband passed away in 2016. Got me a new phone. And I used to have one of those little track phones, flip phones. But when I got my new phone, I had access to the internet. So I was bored one day and I just typed in Bigfoot. Well, all these channels come up and all this. So I got to listen to Bigfoot outlaws. And a lot of the stuff they were saying about people habituating and, throwing scraps in the backyard and all that. I thought, oh God, I ain't doing that no more. And I don't. Everything goes in my garbage. And I used to, me and my husband would love to camp. I camped all over Tennessee, North Carolina, over in Cades Cove and Cosby and all over. And every time we go camping, I was always one of those that I want to go way back in the back next to the woods away from everybody. But now I've been camping twice since 2011 when this encounter took place. And when I went camping, I was next to the bathhouse with everybody around me. I was afraid to go close to the woods, and I'm still scared to go. I've not been back on my property since 2011. I have not walked back there. I've not been back there. I don't want to go back there because I know these things are around, and it frightens me. I don't know. Maybe they're docile. Maybe they're not. I don't let my grandkids play in the yard at all unless somebody is out there with them. I also keep my curtains closed. I don't want something looking in the window at me since I'm here by myself most of the time. But I was babysitting my grandkids, and I have an old house in behind me that my son and daughter-in-law was living in at the time. And this was about 3 years ago. So I'd go down there early in the morning, and she worked in another county and I had to leave early because she had to be there at 6 o'clock. Well, I go out my back door, and I get on the back sidewalk. And all of a sudden, I hear a whoop, and I stop dead in my tracks. I mean, I come to a standstill. And I stood there a second. I thought, oh, my Lord. And then a couple of seconds later, I hear another whoop. And then I noticed everything was dead quiet. There was no crickets, no birds chirping, early morning, anything, nothing. And I made a beeline for the house down there. I didn't waste no time. But, it still bothers me because I don't know what these things are. I know they're here. I've actually talked to 2 or 3 other people that have seen them in this county. They know they're here. The other people, one guy seen one running through the woods. One guy was in a boat fishing with his dog down at Rock Island. It's a park down there. And seen one going up the bank of the river. another lady I know and her friend were pulling graveyard vines for a nursery. And they were in an old building, old block, torn down building on another mountain close to me. They said they heard something coming. They said they looked up, and this thing just throwed its arm up on this wall, looked over in at them, and just walked on off. She said it looked like a big monkey is what she said. And then I decided I'd go down to the video store and see if I could find a couple of documentaries on Bigfoot. So I get in the video store, and the lady said, "You interested in Bigfoot?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I actually seen one up on the side of Harrison Ferry Mountain one night." She said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, let me tell you this." She said, "My neighbor and a friend of his was in his backyard down there towards Rock Island at the park." She said, "There was two of them in a field in behind this guy's house." I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "Well, they're around." I said, and people need to know it. I said, I have an uncle that's 83 years old, and he goes out here turkey hunting and deer hunting right at the bottom of this mountain here by himself, and it scares me because, you hear all this 411 people missing and hunters and all this, and, I've told him about this incident. I said, "Please be careful when you're in the woods." So that's basically all I have, to say about the subject. I don't want to see another one, but on the second hand, I'm constantly looking. I cannot help myself. When I go down the mountain or come up the mountain, I'm looking in the trees and on the bluffs, and even at my house when I'm sitting at the dining room table looking out the back window, I'm constantly scanning the woods. I can't help it. But I do not want to see one. A lot of people say, "Oh, I want to see one. I want to see one." Well, they better be careful what they wish for, because I only seen it from the back, and that was enough for me. And that's my encounter, Miguel.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing that with all of us.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, to better understand this area in Tennessee, you mentioned Harrison Mountain and
it's Harrison Ferry.
Harrison Ferry.
Yep.
And then you mentioned Rock Island.
And that's a park down. It's about 15 miles from us. It starts. I don't know if you're familiar with Center Hill Lake.
No, I've never heard.
Well, it's like 90 miles long. It goes all the way down almost way to Nashville. A lot of the country stars have houseboats on this lake. And the rivers that feed this lake come from below my house down here. And there's the Cap Killer River and the Collins River and the Barren Fork River. And they all merge to a dam down there at Rock Island. And then below the dam, they have a big park down there. People can go swimming. It's really beautiful. But where I live is sort of the southern end of the Cumberland Plateau. There's 2 or 3 little mountains around here, but it's highly wooded. And, there's plenty of deer and turkey and whatever else is out there.
Yeah. And you mentioned a river. Was that the Cumberland River or?
I think it's Collins.
Okay.
It's right at the bottom of the mountain. It runs right around the bottom of the mountain. And like I said, if you find Cumberland Caverns, they have big concerts and all that stuff in these caverns. And I know there's caves all up on here, but yeah, it's popular.
Okay. So you mentioned that your son saw a shadow figure on the back porch one day.
Well, he didn't say it was a shadow figure. He said something black, and I don't know what else. Mm-hmm. I don't think a bear could have moved that fast, because time he come out the door and seen it, he stepped right to the back door, and it was gone. The screen door was open. He had my back porch light was on. He could have seen it. If it would have been a bear, he couldn't have moved that fast. Couldn't have cleared that back porch.
Yeah.
But could have been a panther. They have been black panther spotted up here. I don't, doubt that either. But whatever it was, my windows were open and I was sitting here at the table. And whatever it was silent enough. I didn't know it was there. And when he stepped right out, the window's right there. He looked over and seen it. So I don't know what it was.
Yeah, so he did encounter some type of animal or creature.
Or whatever. He said it was so fast he didn't even get a chance to get to the door to see the back end of it. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty fast.
Yeah. And you were talking about your dog being extremely agitated by something out in the woods. Was this within the same time frame?
Well, it was a couple of years later. Mm. Okay. But this dog, he was. I mean, I'd never seen a dog like that before, and I never seen it again. Actually, to my knowledge, that was the only time he ever done it.
Yeah. So you were talking about driving, and you saw a Bigfoot standing next to the guardrail, and you saw the back side of him. You mentioned that it kind of seemed like he acted like you weren't there, or just paid no attention to you.
Yeah, he didn't move. He didn't turn around. He didn't try to run back off down the side of the mountain. He wasn't trying to hide. And he was right out in the open. There was no trees around him. I thought, oh, Lord, my exact word, what the hell did I just see? But I knew what I'd seen as soon as I seen it. I thought, there ain't nothing else like that. I mean, we have a little old black bear that's been spotted every now and then around here, but this was not black. This was a reddish brown, and it was standing upright with its arms. I could see the arm. It was down by his side, and the knees were slightly bent, but the knees were above the guardrail. I don't know how tall it is from that ground to above that guardrail. I've never stopped there. I don't want to stop there. But, and the fur was shiny. I mean, maybe he'd been down there to the river and took a bath. I don't know. But, I mean, it was shiny. It wasn't dull looking or matted he looked like he'd been groomed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty common trait for them to have is a shiny fur coat.
I mean, if that thing had turned around and looked at me, I'd have probably had a heart attack.
Yeah. Maybe he had a kill nearby, or
I don't know.
The rest of the family group just crossed the road before you got there. Or
well, on the other side of the highway, like I said, there's a little bit of a bluff there, but you go up on that bluff there, and the old road goes up through there on the other side, and it's curvy and windy, but it's paved. You can drive up through there, but I don't know where he was headed up. I guess he was headed up the mountain. He wasn't going the other directions. I figured he was fixing to step over that guardrail, cross the highway, and go up the mountain towards that rock quarry.
Okay. So he's heading towards the rock quarry?
Yeah.
Okay. Was he leaving the river or going towards the river?
He was probably leaving. He was leaving the river. Where he was at, he had probably come up out of, there's a little valley down there, I don't know what you call it, a gulf, or it's in between two mountain ridges, and it's deep. There's no houses down there, it's just woods, and I've heard there's a big cave off there. I've never been to it, but I've heard there is. But no, he was coming up the mountain. He was going on up.
Yeah. What do you think the Sasquatch is, and what is your advice to people who encounter these things?
Oh, what they are, I have no idea. And like I told you before, I've only had this phone like 4 years, and I've listened to Sasquatch Chronicles, Carrie Arnold's story and all that, and I don't know what they are. I really don't want to know what they are. They scare me. And I've heard people, well, I'm going to give them apples and peanut butter. And I thought, no, I ain't doing that. If these things are wild creatures, they need to be left alone. And I mean, if they're half human or like the Indians call them big brothers and all that stuff, that's fine. That's the Indians. That ain't me. But I don't want nothing to do with them, because I've heard people have fall-ins with what they call the men in the black stuff. I'd listened to Kerry Arnold's video of his encounter, and I've listened to his show, and him and Mark Zaski. Well, Kerry was on his show one night. He said, I have a couple of pictures here that Mark Zaxby or Zaxky or whatever his name is sent me. He said, if any of y'all, my listeners, want a picture of it, he said, I'll send it to you. So send me your email. So I sent him my email, and he sent me the 2 pictures. Well, you could see it in the woods with a round circle, and you can see the face pretty good. Well, I downloaded them into my photo gallery on my phone. Well, a couple months later, somebody I was talking, I said, I'll show you what a real Bigfoot looks like, clowning around. Well, I went to look for them pictures, and the pictures weren't in my photo gallery. Somebody had took them out. And just so happened I had kept Kerry's email. I downloaded them again. I've done this 3 times. And every time those 2 pictures come up missing out of my photo gallery. No other picture is missing. All my family photos and everything else I've got in there have not been missing. So I took them and put them in a secure folder so nobody could take them away from me. And why somebody would do that is because the government doesn't want us to know it. And these people that we pay to serve and to protect our city officials, our state officials, our federal officials, and they're supposed to serve and protect us, and they're lying to us about all this stuff, and our school kids go out here in the woods on trips and possibly could come up missing. I don't like that one bit. And if somebody asks me, yes, I'll tell them I seen one. Yes, I did. And they better be, watching out. And one of these days, it might not be in my lifetime, but all this is going to come back to bite them in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
These naysayers. Because it is real.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Well, when you were at the area where you heard the whoops, how far off were you from the other areas that you experienced activity at?
1.5 miles.
Okay, 1.5 miles. So, I mean, that's extremely close. And that's probably the same group
probably
that's around.
See, I didn't even know what a whoop was or a wood knock till I got to listening to Bigfoot Outlaws Radio, and they were talking about all this. And then I got to thinking about these things that had happened that I couldn't explain. I thought, that's what that was, And the whoop that I heard, the 2 whoops that I heard, actually had a human tone to them to me. And there's nobody back there in them woods. I mean, 4:30 in the morning, it's dark. And when it happened, then I noticed how quiet it was, and then it happened, then it whooped again. I thought, oh God, they're back here on my property. I mean, I've got neighbors, it's all woods, basically. You can't see the houses, but there's, back there too. But the guy that lives on the other side of me, he put a double wide trailer in behind me to the right of my place. It's a pretty good ways back. And there's a pond back there. And he has 2 little kids. And I think all the time I hear them kids in the yard playing. I thought, oh God, I hope they're watching them kids. Because it bothers me, because I don't know what these things do. I don't know anything about them. I'm like everybody. I've seen the Patterson Gimlin and the Boggy Creek creature, and like anybody else. But to know that they are actually real and all this other weird stuff going on around the country, well, who knows what? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, they're as real as you and I. And
I know.
You mentioned that pond.
That's the
that
reason.
trailer.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the Sasquatch like to frequent ponds. Like anywhere that there's Bigfoot activity or structures, there's normally like a little pond, a creek nearby, a lake,
Well, on the other side of
river.
me, on the other side, there's 2 mobile homes, and right on the other side of that, right on the corner there, is a great big old pond there. I mean, I've got a small pond in behind my place. It's not real big, but the other 2 are, fairly good size. And where I heard these 2 whoops coming from in behind my house was close to this guy's double wide trailer where that pond is over there.
Yeah. Yeah, that would make sense because something that big would need some type of water source.
Well, they ain't got, a mile and a half, 2 miles to get down to the river.
Hmm. Yeah, and they like to get close to people's houses from the wood line and observe what they're doing as they're passing through or take what they need when they can get it.
Yeah. Cheryl Corntassel?
No.
You ain't never heard of him?
No.
Well, he's been on Stardust Beast. And him and some college students were over here at Fall Creek Falls State Park, which is maybe 25 miles from me. And it's up here on top of this mountain. And it's just woods and woods and woods. And it's a very big park. But him and some college kids were over there camping at King Creek one time. And one of them had a sister that lived in Cookeville, Tennessee. And they left that night to go to Cookeville to this guy's sister's house. And they come back the next day, and they had a big old canvas tent, one of them big army tents, Something had been in there and ripped that tent, threw the logs out of the fire in the water. It had just demolished this campsite. And he believes it was a Bigfoot.
Yeah, very well could be. And you mentioned the Sawdust Beast group. They seem like a really good group of guys, and they're out there trying to get some evidence and staying out in these areas. I have a lot of respect for that, just because they're not saying, "Oh, it's a portal," and end of story, But they're actually going out there and trying to find answers for themselves. I like that.
Yes, I mean, what I seen wasn't no portal or spirit, or this was flesh and blood. What I seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the same with my experience. Nothing about it really gave me the sense that it was paranormal.
I mean, I can't say what other people's encounters were. I only know what I saw.
Yeah.
And, I told people, I said, y'all are out hiking or camping or, hunting, or you better watch, because they're there. I said, you can laugh at me all you want to. I said, but it's going to come about. You're going to find out they're for real.
Yeah, they're extremely real. And the only weird thing I've experienced was like some orbs an hour after I heard some whistles. But to me, I got more of the sense that whatever that was, the orbs, was more or less just following the Sasquatch activity, like trying to observe them.
Well, could have been.
Yeah, but I can't really say. But there's definitely paranormal stuff happening out in the woods for sure. But
oh, yeah. I've had a couple of paranormal experiences, but that's another story. One that happened back in 1977, and I won't never forget it. I still don't forget it, and maybe we can discuss it sometime.
Okay, you don't have to share it right now, but
no.
Do you think it's connected with the Sasquatch activity that you have experienced?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, and that's how I feel too with a lot of stuff. It's, because like in that same woods, I see deer, I see people, I confront all kinds of things. So I can't say, okay, because I've seen a deer and I've seen a Sasquatch there, now they're both connected. No,
I mean, these things are flesh and blood. They're animals or half people or whatever they are. I don't know, but they eat and sleep and just like we do. I mean, they bleed just like we do. Yeah. They leave footprints just like we do.
And I think a lot of people will say, well, where's the body? But you've kind of mentioned that earlier. There's a cover-up going on, and there's no doubt about us being lied to, and anyone that doesn't believe that is a fool.
Yeah, exactly. Because our government lies to us all the time. Not even just about Bigfoot, but a whole lot of other stuff.
Yeah, mountain lions and bears. Simple things.
Exactly.
Okay, so you mentioned you don't want to see a Bigfoot.
No.
Okay, well, what's your goal with pursuing knowledge regarding the Sasquatch?
Well, I listen and read reports, and I mean, I didn't even report it to the BFRO, but I did find a website. It was North American Bigfoot Association or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think I did report it to them.
Okay.
Because I'd heard something about the BFRO wasn't truthful about some of their stuff, so I thought, no, I'm not. What I say is the truth, and I don't. That's the reason I listen to Kerry Arnold, and because you can tell by his encounter, he actually had one. It scared this man, just like it scares me, and other people. Mike Woolley. I mean, you could tell in their tone of voice that something happened. Something.
Yeah, and it's hard to say, about the BFRO just because there's a lot of people affiliated with it, and it's hard to say, if someone doesn't get their story out there or get it read or posted, if they're going to get extremely angry, but I mean...
Well, me, I don't care. I mean, now Vic I'd mentioned to Kerry Arnold's on it, maybe his page or something about encountering, and Vic Conniff got a hold of me. How he found out, he hit me up on Messenger. I don't know, but I told him yes, I'd give him the encounter, and I did. But other than that, you're the only one I've talked to. I think I sent Matt Knapp on Bigfoot Radio the encounter by email, but other than that, y'all are the only ones I've talked to. I mean, I don't go out here spreading it around, but if I come across somebody who wants to discuss it, yes, I will discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best route to go, is just find a group that you feel comfortable with sharing your story and get it out there to the world. Well,
I figure that's what I'm doing now. So, I mean, like I said, I've told people off and on. I've told people when I was working at the factory, and they kind of laugh. Yeah, have you seen Bigfoot lately? I said, no, but when I do, I'm going to call you, just clowning around. I said, well, y'all go ahead and make fun. I said, that's all right. I'm fine with that. I'm just letting you know they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Debbie. Well, I appreciate your bravery and honesty with this topic, and I hope to hear more stories from the Tennessee area.
Yeah, I'm sure they're around and getting people, you know how these little towns are. People don't talk too much. But like I said, I know 3 or 4 others that have actually seen them in this county, so I know they're here. I mean, I seen them with my own eyes. But
so you know the people that have seen them, like who have had encounters. Yes. Is there?
Well, I don't know who the 2 guys were in Rock Island. I was just going by what the lady said at the video.
I was about to say, if you know anybody,
I don't know if they'd even come out and talk about it, but one of them was here at my house. We were talking about it, but so.
Yeah, well, if you run across anybody who wants to share their story to match it up with yours, I'd be willing to listen to it.
All
right, Debbie. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story and taking the time to do it.
I'm glad you let me have the opportunity to tell people. I mean, there's a lot of people having encounters that are wanting to tell it so people will know this stuff's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you experience any more activity or have another encounter, get a hold of me.
I will, but I hope I don't.
Yeah. All right, Debbie. Well, you have yourself a good day, and it was nice talking to you.
Thank you, Miguel. I appreciate it. You have a good day, too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That was a very interesting encounter, and like I said, she was very adamant about what she saw. People always seem to have an answer to what others see and experience, even though they were not there. I always hear people say it was a bear, or it's just a trick of the wind, or somebody messing with you. I think most rational people are not rushing to the conclusion of it being Bigfoot. When you have a Bigfoot encounter for yourself, there is no mistaking it, and you will know it 100%. Your first thoughts will probably be, wow, they do exist, and wow, that's what everybody's been talking about this whole time. And then you start wondering why we are not being told about something like this. If you guys enjoy me hounding down people for their Bigfoot stories, then please like and subscribe. It's a lot of work, but you know what? Somebody's got to do it. That's it for now, everyone. Thank you and take care.